I've got this really cool app on my phone that I take notes in. So when things happen during the week and, it sparks a thought about, oh, this might be something great to talk to the community about, I get on that app and I go in there and do this, and it syncs to my computer, and then from there I start making it all. It's fun. It's great, and I've got a list a mile long, literally a mile long. I mean, I could talk for the next 3 years and not cover everything that I've got on here as topic ideas. So when something is brought to my attention that needs to jump to the top, I immediately have to go in there and I have to rearrange everything, get it going. Well, this week that happened. Thanks to Miss Gloria over here. She asked if someday I could talk about extending love. We're studying Way of Mastery, and there's a lot of talk about extending love. And so I put it on the list, and it didn't go straight to the top of the list, but that was Wednesday, I think it was, and Thursday it became a little stronger, so I thought, well, maybe I need to pay attention to this, and Friday it was even stronger, and then yesterday as we were over here messing around here, working and trying to clean things up and doing things and hanging this beautiful thing that Zelma and Billy made, it became evident that that's what I need to talk about. So I started putting it all together, and really had something great going, and then I get here this morning, and we have the TV on while we're getting the fire started and everything ready over in the center, and we're watching the CBS morning show, I believe it is, and this lady starts talking about the people who are the most unhappy in the world are the people who set their sights too high. And I go, wait a minute, now I've got to talk about this, and so that starts pushing on this, and so somehow these are coming together this morning because they're both great topics, and I think one does go with the other. But what she was saying on TV this morning was people who set their sights too high set themselves up for failure. And studies have shown, and I don't know where she read these studies, studies have shown that people who don't set their sights are more satisfied. I think there probably is some truth to that if your sights are that $1 million, that beautiful car. If all of your sights are outside of you, there may be some truth to this. You might be setting yourself up for failure. Now, we did a really cool process last week in our workshop that helps you figure out what those things mean to you and the feelings and the strengths that you have within you that drive that desire. And when you can focus on those and make those happen with every step towards your dreams, you're going to be much more successful. You're not going to be let down. If my goal is that $1 million and I only get to $100,000, if every step towards that $100,000 was fulfilling my core values, my inner strengths and traits that I discover, how can I fail? How can I fail? So, yes, I guess she's probably correct in some ways. If you look outside of you to be satisfied, you may be setting yourself up for failure. But when you consider within first and make that part of your journey and make that part of every single step you take in life, you can't fail. No matter where you end up, you cannot fail. And I think that is part of how that story and extending love come together. Because extending love comes in two forms. Extending love comes in the outer world, where we share our smile with somebody. Just walk through the mall, share a smile. You'll get a smile back most of the time. And if you don't get a smile back from the person you smiled at, somebody near them probably picked up on it and they smile. So you can share. You're extending love just by doing it. Even if that person doesn't smile back, they probably softened just a little bit. They probably felt a little twinge in their heart. So you've extended love. The pay it forward movement, just every time I think it's dying off, it just tends to grow even bigger. And you can do things. You're driving through the drive-through at Starbucks, and you buy the coffee for the person behind you. There's all kinds of ways to do this. At the grocery store, you let somebody go in front of you in line so that you're helping them save time. There's so many ways to pay it forward, just to do something a little more. That in itself is extending love. I went, as always, I went to the Bible to find verses on love, and I don't always find verses that speak directly to what I want to talk about in the morning, that I'm led to talk about. It's not just me, because I really do turn it over. But today I did. And one of these I actually found when I was writing the ceremony for a wedding that I did a couple of weeks ago. And it's a definition of love. And I think that if you can take these verses, memorize this definition, and you make this part of every action that you take, you're extending love. So, this one comes from 1 Corinthians 12, 4 through 8. And it just simply says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. If we could just create a way to live within that all the time, we would be extending love always. Okay? So, that's kind of a great definition, in my opinion. The back to that pay it forward, some guys that live by this that I read about, they simply drive down the road, and when they see a home that looks like it needs to have some leaves raked, they'll get out and do it. And they happened to do it at this one home, and the lady came out she finally noticed them about the time they were wrapping up. They had raked them up, bagged them up, and had them sitting on the street ready for somebody to pick them up. And she came out just, oh, wow, thank you very much. Can I offer you a coffee? And they said, no, we got to get going, but we did notice that your gutters need to be cleaned out. Is it okay if we put our ladders up here and get busy? Well, sure. And they did this around the community. They're extending love. Those people that receive that feel their love. So, being of service to people is huge. That's just a great way to extend love in the outer world. We're going to get to the inner part here in a minute. Being of service at a restaurant, you did this over the holidays, where you go and you just help people who may be in need. The trick with all of this, though, is if you do it from your heart, it's extending love. If you do it out of a feel of necessity or a feel of guilt or any other reason, it doesn't necessarily extend love. It's got to come from your heart. It's got to be something that you're willing to do no matter what comes back to you. Even if nothing comes back to you, you've got to be willing to do it. You've got to have a desire to do it. Then it becomes extending love. If you're doing it only because of what you may get out of it, all bets are off. You might extend love, you might not. I can't tell you that. But I do know that when you come from your heart, when you just follow that desire, no matter what anybody thinks about it, no matter what comes back, it's extending love. Another verse that I found comes from Matthew 5:43 and 45. It says, "You have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for them who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on evil and good, and he sends rain on righteous and unrighteous." So this would be extending love to a different level, a whole new level. This does not say pray for your enemies so that they become just like you. It doesn't. If you're praying that way, it is full of judgment. And anytime there's judgment, that's driven by fear. And fear can only happen in the absence of love. So anytime we pray that that terrorist drops his evil ways and becomes just like me, there is no love extended whatsoever. None. We have to stay in affirmative prayer. We have to pray that God's will be done. We have to pray that that person that the news is calling a terrorist is one with God, just as I am. They are expressing themselves in a unique way. We cannot bring down judgment on them if we want to be coming from a place of love. If we want to extend love, we cannot go there. I cannot look differently at someone because they have a different color skin than I do. I cannot look differently at someone because they have a different religious belief. We practice and we teach and we believe that God is everywhere, that God is in everything, that there is no way to be separate from God. So how can we believe that person over there is any less than us? Or how can we believe that their actions are any less than ours? We don't have to go over there and pretend like we're doing the same thing. We don't have to go change our ways. We just have to see that person as a child of God. And in our prayers, just have affirmative praying. Pray that God's will be done. Pray that love presides over everything. Pray that the highest good comes from the situation. In that, we extend love. And then one more verse that I found that I thought was appropriate for today. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are disciples, if you have love for one another. Now, disciples, to me, in my Baptist teaching, came back as not necessarily a positive thing, so I had to look up disciple. I wanted to see, is this really a word that I want to use today? So I looked it up, and it is a word I want to use today. A disciple is a pupil or an upholder of doctrines of another. This is a true extension of love, to be seen as authentically living as Christ. Okay, so yes, I will be a disciple in this verse. From the Christ mind, we are one with God, and I can be a disciple of that. Okay. Now, all of these ways that we've been talking about are kind of the outward extension of love. But before we can get to that, before we can truly do that without judgment of our enemy, without judgment of another action, before we can do that and truly express love coming from a pure love space, we've got to go within. As I was looking at it from this direction, it occurred to me that I always believe that God is within us. Always. I sometimes think that God's got a little room right in there next to my heart, and it's got a door on the thing on the room with a sign that says God, and I kind of feel like you got to go knock on it and hope he answers you, and then you can have a conversation. That's not what God is. That is still a separation. That is still having that illusion of being separated from God. God truly is in every cell of my being. Truth be known, God is not within me, I'm within God. God is everywhere present. And I am just part of that presence. I am fully God, just as God is fully me and fully you, fully everyone out there watching the video. We know that we get there when we can't tell where this body ends and God starts. I have been fortunate enough, and my intention is to live this every moment of every day. I'm not there yet. I've been fortunate enough to have those times where I could not tell the difference between me and Spirit. Right now it happens mostly when I'm by myself and silent. I'm looking forward to the day that it happens when I'm up in front of you guys. And it does happen sometimes. There are times that I'll finish the talk and I'll go, whoa, what did I just say? And I know I'm there. Some of this has been like that so far. But anyway, when we get there, we are pure love. When we get there, we are extending love in every action, every thought, every sound, everything we do is an extension of love. We cannot help but extend love when we are fully one with God. When we acknowledge that, when we lose all knowing of this body as separate from God. When we acknowledge this body as something other than God, we're back to that place of fear because we're seeing the illusion of disconnect. Anytime we can see that, we are losing a part of love. It doesn't mean we're not loving beings. It doesn't mean that all of that stuff we do outside of us is no good. If we can do nothing inside but do only good outside, say thank you. It's a pretty good life. There's just more, and we find that more inside. We find that more when we just acknowledge that we truly are part of God. We truly are children of God. We truly are in the Christ mind. That's where the extension of love comes from. That's how we extend love more fully than we could ever do it on our own. So go within, realize, awaken to, and acknowledge your oneness, your complete connection, your complete saturation is the word that's coming to with God. It's our illusion that makes us think there's something other than God. Our truth is what says there is nothing other than God, which means we are, in essence, God, expressing himself or herself, or itself, as some people say. So go within, extend love, and you can't miss.